audience to submit questions. So I'm really pleased to be here once again at an Aapresid Congress, and this time with an outstanding panel. We have three entrepreneurs who had great visions, who have overcome several hurdles, but they keep on moving forward because it's possible to make forward to carry out more sustainable agriculture. I'm also honored to have next to me the first Secretary of Bioeconomy in the world, the first Secretary of State. So, Fernando, thank you very much for being here. And please help me to moderate this panel. The entrepreneurs will share with us the challenges. And the first question is, what inspired you to undertake what you are doing? I'm Joaquín. Thank you very much for being here. I'm one of the co-founders of Nat4Bio. It's a startup working in agrobiology in Tucumán. We started with a dissertation of one of my partners, Leandro Sanchez, a CONICET researcher, and he decided to take this science to a place where it could cause impact, that is by creating a product used in the market, sold, and that has possibilities outside a lab. So he became part of an incubator process. He came from the Grides Fund. I come from the work in corporations. I am an industrial engineer, and we were part of a matchmaking program. We have the scientists and the entrepreneurs on one side and on the other side. And if there is chemistry, there is a good link between both parts. The incubator invests in that company. We started operating 2 years ago, and we are about to start launching the products next year. Andres, good afternoon. I'm Andres Bertotto. I'm one of the partners, or one of the three partners, IEF, Engineering in Fertilizers. I'm nervous because he was very brief. But I may speak at length. Basically, our company was set up in March 2018 with an important asset, that is the knowledge we had about a very specific market. The three partners had this market, the fertilizers market and the commodities market. Therefore, we developed a marketing network which is present throughout Argentina. We have 22 sales reps throughout the country, and we have a specific business model for the sale of fertilizers. Some years after starting the company, because of sustainability issues related to the business, we decided to start working with biostimulants in the current synthetic chemicals that are used. So we started moving along that path, and this is our goal, so to say. We want to add biostimulants to the chemicals so that the plants may better assimilate nutrients, synthetic nutrients. So this is the first step the industry should take when moving towards this new challenge. The new challenges it is facing. Besides, we also sell commodities, biostimulants. We have two commercial products, and one of the partners is an expert in fertilizer for industrial applications. And this is related to yeast production and detergents that use nitrogen in the formula, and this represents 35% of our sales. So we are a company which, though going into the world of biotechnology, already has a network of products, or a portfolio of products that has been sold for several years now. Good afternoon. My partner, Alonso, was going to be here, but he invited me to join you. How did we start? We are a dream made true. When I was studying microbiology, I felt passion because I saw there was a rhizobium that would fixate nitrogen from the atmosphere. In 97, 98, I was thinking it was fascinating that my bacteria would fix nitrogen, so I began to study microorganisms. So when I graduated, I wrote a dissertation in Brazil. I studied for this in Brazil. I worked in the production of a fungus to control nematodes in tomato. That was in 2004. And when I came to Argentina, I graduated as a biotechnologist, and I started working at INTA Castelar, and I took a postgraduate course in the production of bio inputs. Most of my colleagues were studying for molecular biology. I was focused on industrial biology. I studied with my colleagues, with outstanding professors, and we worked with several very microorganisms, rhizobium and others, and they were not used in production back then, but I decided I wanted to work taking this bacteria into production. In 2015, I decided to work in this area. I had never sold anything before. I had a truck. I worked with my father. We created a place to prepare soybean inoculants, so I started going out to try and sell rhizobium back then, and nobody was buying it back then because they were included in the fungicides. I learned about this, I bought the fungicides, and I started selling both together, and I realized there was a fruit and vegetable market, everybody was using amino acids, so I decided to develop a product based on amino acids that was used in more intensive crops, so I developed a product which was different. When I gave it to the farmers to test it, or to the care group, there was a difference in germination time and in rooting. These were my first steps. Back then, I didn't have enough time to manufacture as much as they wanted to buy from me. It was then when I met my partner, Mr. Alonso, so we started to discuss this, and we said, well, maybe we could create a company. So together with Fede, Lionel, who is back there, and my father, who set up the first equipment, we created some micro elements, and so we started working in a garage, and we reinvested our profits all over again. Today we have 25 or 30 people of staff. We are in an industrial park. We are growing. Have just started creating a new R&D department. That's why I'm saying this is a dream come true, because everything I was imagining in the past is now happening. Now we are thinking of exporting to the US, Paraguay. We were in Spain a short time ago, so Bolivia too. So this is, in a nutshell, all the ups and downs, all the changes in our company. I didn't know too much about farming. I learned after talking to farmers, engineers, and this is how Microvidas was set up. It's very interesting because we have three distinct starting point. You had the technology, you had the market, and you had the product. So there are different ways of starting. And Fernando, my question is this one. The three of them are focused on biologicals. What happens with biologicals nowadays, and why are they so important for agriculture? We are in a century which, unlike the previous one, which was based on physics and chemistry, this one is focused on biology and IT sciences, on information sciences. These two currents of knowledge, when they merge, we get the issues or the things that have been mentioned by the members of the panel. And besides, this is based on something which is core, which is knowledge. Knowledge coming from a dissertation, from your career, or knowledge of a market that tries to change these products to meet the consumer's needs. This takes place at a time where there is a virtuous production system in Argentina, virtuous from the point of view of environmental footprint. It has farmers who, according to several studies, unlike our competitors such as the US, here the main actors are younger, much better educated. Most of them have attended universities. On the other hand, there is pressure by consumers to create or eat or consume products and services that have a smaller footprint. Everything they have said is related to this. The bio-inputs, the biostimulants, etc., they are part of this matrix related to the need of producing more with less and with a smaller impact. So if we have a biostimulant, in his case, which fosters nutrient take-up, we will have to use fewer nutrients or less nutrients. And this happens in all cases, in the 3 cases described. So everything is becoming more complex, the production systems, I mean, plus there is now knowledge coming from several areas of sciences, models, biology, microbiology, production systems, etc. And somehow, together, they create an increasingly virtuous system. And there should be a goal for Argentina. I believe we have the tools, we have figures which allow us to say that that our agriculture has a small environmental footprint. And if we move along the paths that have been described by the 3 speakers, this might be an identification of the national system. And many of us believe this is possible if undertakings like the ones present here are replicated many times. What happens in the fresh fruit market? We are developing a cover or a film to protect fresh fruit after it is being harvested. We use a metabolite that keeps the humidity, the color of the fruit, and it's also a medic and a structural support of biological control elements that make it unnecessary to use pesticides. When the sales pitch in cash crops is more difficult because there's already synthetic product, which is very good, and today consumers' requests are very back in the supply chain. What we offer for after harvest is very important.
In our case, we convince the packer or the exporter that had a huge potential. That's why I wanted to mention this. Now, going back on how you became a company, if you were to say, for example, a drawback or something that you needed to overcome, what would be an example? Joaquín? My background is as a biotechnologist, and then I got a master's degree, a PhD degree. So the strongest barrier was creating the organizational, or putting together the organizational part, the accounting part of the company. And that's why we work together with Fede, how to create an SME. We were only 3, and then we increased in number, and that was one of the challenges. But given our technical background, rather than economic or mathematical background, and then SENASA was another challenge. The registration of products. When I started back then, it was very difficult to register products with SENASA. To get a registration was very difficult. Fernando, how did you come about? Well, we simplified everything, and over the past few months, SENASA's authorities will continue revolutionizing the processing. There is all the registrations have been, are faster, both for all types of products, biologicals and others. So the incorporation of biologicals demand is so fast. If you take 3 years to register, they are useless. Another thing, in addition of having 3 times more people dedicated to the registration of products, we had a partnership with Brazil, Uruguay, and Paraguay. So the certification of these products is now the same for all the countries. And this is also a new process. It has to do with streamlining the process. And then also, if a product, for example, is approved in a specific country, we decided to implement a fast-track process for biologicals. If not, it's going to be impossible to introduce biological products massively. Brazil did that fast-track process. The path is clear. We need to identify the opportunity proposed by biologicals and take advantage of the new uses of these products. And we participate in the bio-inputs associations. I had a meeting with the newly appointed director at SENASA, and the policy has changed dramatically. I mentioned when we started registration, it was very difficult many years ago, and now it's more streamlined. I fully agree with Rodrigo. We have this knowledge that we have gained over the time, but coordinating a company, having cross-functional teams, putting them together is something that we are learning on the go. And now we are faced with this challenge, understanding how teams work, and realizing that the company should be regarded as a partnership, and that each knowledge should be incorporated into the project and contributed to the development of the project. Today, we are talking about 20 partners in the company, plus 10 other associates, plus another number of sales representatives. Coordinating all these people is a challenge. We come from the commercial or the business background. We know the topic, but we need coordination for this. It's not our scientific side. And the company is located in Pehué. And when you are far apart from the urban centers like Buenos Aires, Rosario, and Córdoba, the distance is a disadvantage as well. And the resources that are far apart is a shortage también. But at the same time, we are very proud of having our company registered in in this location and to have all the research and development going on there. It has a clear impact, tangible impact on the economy of the area. So there are pros and cons, challenges, but the return, which is very evident when you see or when you're able to coordinate the teams, you generate value in the community. And that is a feature that is very important to underscore, to think in bioeconomics. So unlike a traditional view, knowledge should go towards the biomass where the need is, and what you are doing, attracting trained human resources and bringing them to Piwe, is part of this vision that is replicated in the different initiatives across the territory. So in this way, we talk about development, equitable development of the regions, federalism, and it has to do with rational that is in line with bioeconomics. Piwe has trained or professional resources that didn't exist 3 or 4 years ago, and that is a multiplying factor in each or with each of the projects. And challenges, well, of course, many challenges. And we started with concept tests, believing that they were meaningful. We had to translate them into a product and then having an organizational structure for selling the product. So from the very beginning, we were financed by a venture capital because the product has not yet been arrived into the market. So the main challenge is the countdown until we get more investors for the project and to get a return on the investment. So until we don't have the commercial operation in the market, well, we are still in the first steps. Organizational aspects take time, but the main challenge was turn that idea into a product, pack that product, because it's about fruit. We put the fruit in water, and we had 95% of curative control. The first trial in a packaging, we got 5% effectiveness. Absolutely the opposite, because packing conditions are the ones that matter. And if you did not test the product in those conditions, everything is just a promise. After many trials, formula adjustments, checking everything in the operational environment, we can say that today the control of the product, depending on the product, is around 90%. But higher than the 60% effectiveness of the traditional biologicals. So today we are ready for the next stage, and this has to do with the second or third challenge, the regulatory aspects. And we can frame the product and have preliminary discussions with SENASA, but the registration has to comply with a proven formula, frozen, that is frozen at the time of registration. That means that 1, 2, 3 years of registry approval, well, has been adjusted and optimized. And this adds time to the project from the first trial to a successful commercial business. And everything in this process is intertwined. So as you develop the process, I guess that, well, you start with the trials. I need to validate this, that I think it's performing well, and I have to prove that performance. What is the role of institutions, scientific, academic institutions, in the trial stage? And how is your relationship with the academia or the scientific community? Well, we had several ANR contributions. All the RNA that we submitted with the different schools and the different institutes, well, we had a good relationship. Sometimes they don't understand the pace of industry, and then we entered into some cooperation agreements. The institution did nothing. We did everything because they didn't get the funds. So that was a problem. But the relationship with researchers is very important because they know and their knowledge can be transferred directly to the industry. And sometimes it's hard to materialize their knowledge in the industry. And iteration sometimes is difficult with the researchers. We need to work, I believe, more with CONICET or enter into other types of agreement, because they have two very good pathogen strains to control different pests, but the CONICET apparently cannot speed up this partnership, which in Brazil, because I've worked with some Brazilian companies, that is very streamlined. Everything is okay, and in our case, we are still struggling. We need to be faster for all the research investment to be materialized in the field. And that is a major barrier because there is a lot of investment in research. But as a company, we are good at formula development, field trials, but sometimes getting the basic research of a microorganism and put it on trial on the field, which is very expensive for us. And we rather enter into an agreement with the people that have already performed those tests, and that is something that is difficult. You were nodding, and you spent many years in the academia. And how do you believe that this could be improved? Yeah, there are no stimuli for the technological and scientific community to try to speed up. The only thing that they are concerned with is in the publication of papers. So that is something that Argentina must do. If you, well, see the number of patents applied by the University of Buenos Aires is almost inexistent. At the end of the day, researchers have to apply for patents individually or through another country. And that happens because Argentina does not belong to the patent registration system. That is a weakness. There were many attempts. If we read Lino Barañao's strategic plan, also Alejandro participated in that development. There was at the time the need of iterations, but CONICET, universities, other institutions are very conservative, the most conservative associations in Argentina. Changing the rules of game is very difficult, and it is a weakness. It is a weakness that must be addressed and overcome. It has to do with the way you are rewarding the people that are part of the scientific and research community. In other cases, if you don't make the transfer, you don't survive. That is the difference. Many countries that perform well in this regard made the public-private partnerships, and they work well. Of course, we need a public research system, a powerful one, because without that foundation, it's going to be very difficult, and that happens everywhere. So there is an integration that Argentina is still missing. That is my view. I don't know what's your experience. And on top of that, we talk about sustainability, but if we don't have our own resources to keep a policy going on is unsustainable. It's not a question of having many patents, but it's about transferring those patents into reality, getting their royalties, etc. So the Argentine state takes 10 years in developing or training a scientist. The best way to have a return on the investment is to have a transfer and partnership system quickly, providing income for the company that develops the product and for the development of that niche.
Andres, in your case, did you work with scientific institutions beyond the academia? For example, Aapresid or Obispo Colombres Experimental Station. When you started talking about patents, I felt sort of, well, again, being a business, when Ariel joined us, he's helping us to organize that part. We are moving along that path, but our system and the process is the following one. From the business point of view, we detect an opportunity and we work on it with our R&D team in the lab. Something is designed, tested, it is tested in greenhouses, and only after that do we start interacting with some departments at CONICET, working with our biologists, and we work in close contact with the Aapresid trials network. After we have tested the products in the greenhouse, we do field trials, and in the farms, we work with Aapresid, INTA, and universities, and after that, we carry out field trials with customers that are using and testing our technologies. So again, we are not a company whose focus is research. No, we do research after we detect needs and opportunities in the market. I don't know if this is very unique, but it works for us. And there is a player here, and going back to bioeconomy or bioeconomics, though everything is designed in Pigüé, the ideas are born in Pigüé, but multiplying them and reaching the scale. This is in Arrecifes, where we have a strategic partner, where we manufacture fertilizers that are used by the industries, or where we add bioinputs or biostimulants to the synthetic fertilizers. So there is a link between Pigüé and Arrecifes, something that links us. And this is interesting, but basically we work in close contact with Aapresid, INTA, and universities. And something I forgot to say earlier on is the relationship between the funding for science and technology, depending how far you are from becoming a product, having a product that could be launched in the market. In developed countries, there is lots of public funding in the early research stages, and after this information is transferred to the production sector, and it's the production sector that scales this and takes the product to the market. So as the TRL progresses, first there is a lot of public funding, and then it diminishes as the private sector gets involved. So we have the public sector that tries to take something to the market, and this is not necessary. And then we have private companies that have to do basic R&D, which is too expensive for them. It would be better for each player to act in its own field to increase productivity in the long run. And now I'll ask a question about another challenge which is very difficult to overcome or tackle. We have the idea, the product, we develop the process, or the other way around. We test it, it works. So how do we set up the marketing part, the marketing activities? How do we get to the clients? In the case of fruit, maybe there are fewer large customers, but in the case of agriculture, it's broken down. There are farmers and clients all over the place. Maybe the same happens with fruit, because fruit is produced in Patagonia or in the north of the country. So how do we start? How do you start? There is an issue of logistics, capital investments, connectivity. Who would like to start? Let's talk next year when we will have started selling our products, and I will tell you what it was like. Well, for us, working in partnerships is key. We were discussing this in the previous panel, so the different ways of growing in the commercial area. Either you work with a marketing company or sales company, or being a sales company, we decided to partner with our marketing network. So we have to make it to all the markets. We know we cannot do this on our own, and everybody has to be a winner here. So this is our starting point. So you need logistics, you need to get closer to the markets and to the opportunities. And from the point of view of funding, that is a huge challenge. Just like Microvidas, we are a company that gets profits from all the products we develop every year. And all the profit is reinvested in the company. And in the last 6 years, where we grew a lot, Argentina's economy and financial structure were not a bonus specifically. And in this case, vendors are strategic partners. We have been working with the support and the trust of our vendors. This is the kind of cooperative approach we are using for our projects. Until last year, not being able to import anything was very harmful, because the productive matrices for all our products were used mainly imported raw materials, so it was very difficult to produce. So we had to switch to different raw materials to develop new products. This was quite difficult, and from the sales point of view, we started running tests. I started selling things without having learned how to sell. I would sell to the large farmers in Entre Rios. We have a pack, a biological pack that uses trichoderma amino acids and another element. We launched it 5 years ago. We started selling it 5 years ago in Entre Rios, and our yield, the yield with our product is better than the one achieved with chemicals. So we are running trials in different areas. Our products are always the best ones when it comes to seed treatment. So this is a distinct product, but the barrier, the obstacle is set up by the users who believe that biologicals are not good yet. Farmers say, well, it's raining, I will use a chemical fungicide, though it has been proven once and over again in dry or wet years that we get better results with our bio products. So farmers still believe that biologicals are not good because 10 years ago they used them once, and of course they were different. Nowadays, biologicals are produced the way the pharmaceutical industry manufactures its products. So the quality of our biologicals is quite different from the one of biologicals 10 years ago. We working for row crops and for specialty crops. We offer our products. It is used much more in specialty crops. We are not growing that fast in row crops, however, because we have to work with each individual farmer to show them the responses achieved. We have to extract the plant, to show them the volume of the leaves, the size of the roots. So we need to show them what our products do in their own farms. Trials are not enough for farmers very often. So it's very difficult to tell them that if they invest $5 per hectare, their yield will increase significantly. So we run many trials, and 80% of the results are good, and in 20% they don't get the response they expect in 20% of the cases, because farmers always blame the biologicals, not the chemicals. So that's why biologicals are not growing as fast as they should in Argentina. They are growing much faster in Brazil and elsewhere. There is still resistance in Argentina. So after the first successful trial with a product for which there is already interest in the market, there is a waiting list, customers waiting for the product to be authorized. What was very useful for us was working with INTA and experimental stations. First, as a proxy for the industry, INTA and experimental stations know a lot about the problems farmers face. So it's like talking to many farmers through just one spokesperson. Besides, the tests run by INTA are very reliable. We can tell the farmers, well, if INTA tells them this was done this way, and farmers trust INTA much more. This helped us to overcome the first barrier, because our product is odorless, colorless, it's a thick liquid. So how come this would work? But if you compare our product to a synthetic product, which has odor and ammonia, well, our products are very different from the chemicals. So farmers, when they see this in the packing facility, their point of view changes very often. So we had many issues with importing some inputs, which are very easy to import elsewhere, and here you need a whole long process, red tape process. So because customs sometimes asks for samples, and it's very expensive to import them. So these are many red tape obstacles. Our process is a wide-ranging one. We go from the very beginning to getting a product to the farmers, but our goal is to sell the products ourselves. The citrus-producing farmers in the north and the apple and pear-producing areas closer to Patagonia are very interested. We have run trials with several clients, and we are trying to leverage to leverage the work with companies in the area. We have protocols to work with larger organizations in order to introduce the product as an additional product in the portfolio of companies that are already working in this field, instead of having to sell the products ourselves of course, our income is a little bit smaller because we sell through a third party, so we will have to charge a transfer price and not the final price that the packing house would pay. But anyway, this would expand our market. But we need our sales to grow. Eventually, our sales force doesn't have to be that large, so we are being more efficient in the use of resources. Fernando, based on your experience, well, you have traveled a lot lately, participating in international negotiations. Let's talk about certification. How valuable, well, what is the value of a certification when it comes to exports? Well, from now onwards, we will increasingly need certification and traceability, environmental certifications, health-related certifications, etc. Today, in the most demanding markets, this has already started. It started some time ago. It's not going to get us a premium price, but it will be an entry barrier in a context where these products are, the market for these products is going to grow significantly. I believe it's worthwhile talking about some data. Some authors say that in the world there are maybe 14 million species. Out of these 14 million species, only higher plants, mammals, and some macroorganisms have been identified. In the case of microorganisms, the rate of ID is very low. Less than 1% of the bacteria have been identified, but if we are not aware of the species, let alone do we know how they relate to one another, which are the molecular dialogues they have. Sometimes they cooperate, sometimes they reject one another, etc. And out of those, we don't know many of them. We don't know the species, let alone the interactions. And if in this century of IT sciences and biology, if we learn more and more, we'll find that these dialogue among species provide the solutions we need. Some of them you have already identified, and they are related to improve nutrient uptake, protect products, relationships and coordination among organisms. I believe here is a huge potential, where we are just scratching the surface. We're just starting to learn about this. And at the end of the day, somebody will tell us how it was done, what the impact was, and that is the certification or the traceability. There is a world we're just peeping into. This is the world of biotechnology and the use of microbiology. At Aapresid congresses, people used to say that in a spoonful of soup full of earth or soil, there were as many microorganisms as human beings on Earth. So this is the comparison they used to make. Here, this genetic wealth of relationships, and of which we just know the very beginning, and they are trying to showcase or share through their projects and companies.
Okay.
Do you agree with this? Absolutely. The first development, we always talk about our first range of products, because in addition to this, we have a pipeline or a roadmap of different microorganisms to produce new active ingredients and other extracts, and to produce the polymers also, because we want to continue developing formula technology. Microbian polymers are the future, and the way they are formulated and the way they perform when you combine them with other known excipients, we are constantly developing new products and technologies. With the round of investment that we want to achieve, we want to have a sales team to launch these first two products into the market, but then 40-45% of our time will be in the development of these technologies, which is based on what Fernando has just mentioned. Interesting. And in the few minutes left, just some takeaway messages. How do you envision the future? What are your expectations for the next years? And then, Fernando, if you can wrap up with your ideas about or your thoughts about these new companies that are making Argentina greater and greater. I take away Rodrigo's message, acceptance by the farmers of these new technologies, new old technologies, so to speak. The challenge is in getting their understanding, and that the farmers' sowing operations, because we are very oriented to extensive farming and the use of bio-inputs or bio-solutions or biostimulants and introducing them in the farmers' operations, given the complexity of Argentina's sowing process that is mostly focused on having farms rented. I think that the future is with this type of products. Large corporations are acquiring bio-input smaller companies, and that is the challenge, because we can design whatever we want, but if it is not easily adopted by the farmer, whether the farmer relies on the technology or if the operation of the farmer does not help in that adoption, I think that is the challenge. I think that this will continue growing hand in hand with providing greater profitability to the farmers, so that farmers can invest more in this technology. Farmers today, they have lower profitabilities for whatever reason, but we need policies in place that encourage farmers to use these products. In other countries like Paraguay, they take advantage and exploit this technology. So if we reduce tax withholdings, allowing farmers to invest in this type of technologies, the inputs will skyrocket, because there is some fear about using them. And perhaps if we overcome this barrier, we will see more possibilities. My word is opportunity. I've been in the agricultural or farming business for a short period of time, but I see more and more startups being part of the agricultural scene, and I see a lot of companies doing biotechnology, biotech technology, not only for Argentina but for the world. And we recognize the technological talent, the capacity that we have here, and the competitive development cost, human cost, compared to other big biotechnological hubs like the United States, England, etc. So we have a great opportunity to place agricultural applied biotechnology as the potential for the future and try to exploit it. We see other partners or big companies being part, Grupo Crea, Aapresid. They help companies to position their products. And sometimes this is not the case in other parts of the world, because you need to contact many stakeholders. So the fact that these stakeholders, like in Venture, Pampas Tarek, Angeles at Crea, the fact that they are getting involved shows the willingness of the agriculture to have a positive return on their crops. So this fabric around biotechnology is very interesting. And building on your comment, one of the characteristics of Argentina's economy was the impossibility to be connected with the rest of the world. There were different reasons why the policies were against the agriculture as a whole, and we don't have to discuss this now, but I always say that Argentines export half what Uruguayan exports and 1/3 of what Chilean export. And that is why we were blocked or separated from the rest of the world. And that is due to the tax withholdings that the farming sector pays. And as a result of that closeness, has to be reshaped. The statement or the tagline of this Congress is everything is connected. We must connect our products with the demands of the world. The public has to be connected with the private sector, seeking common goals. For example, getting out of 45% poverty, you need to open up to the world. And one of the huge potentials of Argentina is bioeconomics, which is undoubtedly part of any development federal projects that we would want to carry out. And that is something that is available in all the regions of our country. We do with technologies such as the ones that we are learning about today. And also in a context where global demands will be higher and higher, focus on the ones that development biomass. In addition to the fact that this is an area, a peaceful area, we live in a continent that is very peaceful. Of course, taking care of the society, the environment, and meeting the consumers' needs, which are more stringent and more demanding. So if we meet the needs of these consumers, well, we will succeed. So what you are doing, I think it's very important regarding connecting with the world, connecting with what the 21st century stands for, connecting with the society as a whole. Thank you. Thank you for what you are doing. And one more strength, I would say, about Argentina and Argentines. Despite all the weaknesses, we are moved by passion. We see a barrier, we try to overcome it. We may go against the barrier, but at the end of the day, and you probably know what I'm talking about, yes, you succeed. And today we are here. Thousands of problems everywhere, but we can get to destination. Let's keep passionate and let's move forward. Thank you, and I ask the audience for a big round of applauses. We have 3 minutes left for 1 or 2 questions. I don't know if there are any questions. No questions? Okay. Okay. Thank you very much.